Iowa State will blast Arizona State in the Big 12 championship due to injuries for the Sun Devils, right? Wrong. Or right. This is a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Cyclones crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Cyclones. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day and making your also first listen. I guess you could do it simultaneously. Locked On Cyclones. That's Nick Marv. He has a long, complicated last name, so we stick with Marv around here, the newest member of the Locked On Big 12 family of shows. Nick representing the Cyclones. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs as we go through Iowa State winning on Saturday. What constitutes that? We'll also talk Arizona State winning. What has to go wrong for the Cyclones for that outcome? And then BYU's not here. Colorado's not here. Is this a weird Big 12 championship game with a little less luster? Let's start with Iowa State. Nick, if on Sunday or even Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Time, we can all look at each other and say, wow, Iowa State blew out Arizona State, what went right?
Well, really, it's going to be our run defense. I think that's really where the game is going to be won and lost. Obviously, the injury to, what was the name again?
Jordyn Tyson.
Big name. That's a big name. You're going to want to know that one because he is by far, in a way, the cornerstone.
What was the running back for Iowa State?
Is that Cam?
Not for Iowa. What's the guy for Arizona State, the running back?
So Cam Skibbity or
Cam Skibbity. Great. Thank you.
There
Welcome
it
to
is.
the show.
There it is. Yeah, that's how we roll. But really, that defense is the run defense is really where it's going to be won and lost. We need to stay away from turnovers. That's going to be the other big one. I've been talking to a lot of Iowa State fans here, and the concern really lies in Rocco's arm. And I think that's fair, but he's also got the ability to take away, just run away with that game. So I'm going to say run defense 1, but Rocco's arm is 1B.
So if you ask today ESPN, they would tell you that Iowa State has a 55% chance to win this game after the Jordyn Tyson injury. If you ask College Football Insiders, who gives you in-depth analytics and efficiencies, they would say Iowa State wins 28-27 against Arizona State with a 51% chance for the Cyclones to win, and that is about as close as it gets. And the Iowa State defense, number 27 in the country against the rush. Arizona State, number 14 running the football. But Nick, here's my question. Arizona State, Sam Leavitt, 15th in the nation throwing the football based on efficiency in dropback. Iowa State, 10th against the pass. This is like immovable object meets unstoppable force. What can we expect? Is there any room for Iowa State to take advantage defensively with their secondary?
Well, yeah. So honestly, the way I approach this is it's going to be a scheme, right? How does Arizona State adjust without their number one guy? And then how does Iowa State adjust to not having to cover him, right? You can't get any yards if you're on the sideline. That's just how football works. And so realistically, I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe we bring out a heavier package or we stack the box a little bit heavier and focus on the run game. But let's just not look over, receiver 2, 3, 4 for Arizona State. Like it's a next man up mentality over there. And I know that for sure. Obviously they are not quite the same level as Tyson, but I just think realistically the Cyclones are going to win the battle in the air, when they're on defense. So I just, I look more towards how does the scheme adjust, right? That what they've seen and what they've done in the past, it'll probably look different.
I've mentioned a lot over the course of the last couple of weeks about Arizona State of where teams could get an edge. And the biggest area is their lack of efficiency defensively on 3rd and 4th down. This is an ad nauseum thing I brought up. They're 96th in the country on 3rd and 4th down defensively. Iowa State, 41st in America offensively on late downs. That is a 55-spot gap between these two teams. Is there anything Iowa State, because we've talked a lot about the defense, the run defense, even the pass defense, Iowa State offensively, what is your key when last week your quarterback was like 12 for 33? Granted, this is a dome. They're going to be indoors, but dome. But the offense of Iowa State, how does it make a difference?
Well, and I was going to say right then and there, it's the weather, right? Yeah. So Rocco has had his fair share of struggles. Let's not deny that. But when it's literally 0 degrees at kickoff or whatever it was. I know that's how it felt.
Yeah.
That's going to impact how the pass game works. So I look towards Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, right? 2,000-yard receivers. I believe we're the only school in the entire nation with 2 wide receivers over 1,000 yards.
It's a very big nation.
Big nation. That's a long drive if you go east to west there. So obviously those 2 are going to make a lot of plays. Like that's just going to happen. But you want to almost look towards like maybe Abu Sama out of the backfield. Carson Hansen, kind of that tough-headed running back, but I wonder if he could maybe swing out a few times. And then really our tight end game is where I would say we're going to win or lose the pass game, because Higgins is going to get his, Noel's going to get his, but can we get a few crossers in there, pick up a few chunk plays, maybe on a second and like 12, make it third manageable? I think that's where that's going to be big.
Is there an edge that you think the analytics don't pick up? Like when I think about a Matt Campbell or a Kenny Dillingham, the coaches or the cultures, is there some sort of, all right, people aren't considering this?
That's statistics for you, right? That's what analytics do. They can only cover numbers. What they can't cover is the Cyclones. The Cyclones are more than just numbers. They're more than just, you look at Iowa State on paper against most teams and you're going to say, oh, well, it's going to go this way. And then it almost never does, whether it's win or lose. Wow. Realistically, they play a lot on vibes. They really do. And one other thing I'd like to mention here while we're talking about Iowa State winning, Iowa State travels unbelievably well. So I would expect quite a few Cyclone fans in that stadium. And I do think that momentum, that backing of the fans behind that team, that's going to play a huge role.
Will you be in the stadium this week?
My friend, I just won the lottery and got a student ticket. So I will, in fact,
bang!
I will be. Not wait. I'm so excited.
That rocks. You and I both. Drinks on me at the Stockyards after the game. We're going to go hang out in Fort Worth. It's going to be very fun. This game for Iowa State, keys to winning from my perspective. You certainly have to take advantage of Arizona State's defense on 3rd and 4th down. I thought Arizona could do that. They did not. But this is a much different team, Iowa State, that is, than Arizona. That Wildcat squad is not very good. And then for Iowa State defensively, obviously limiting the run of Arizona State, but losing a guy like Jordyn Tyson is losing a Travis Hunter on offense. You got your number one guy who, when push comes to shove, worse comes to worse, you need to go to one dude. They don't have that dude on the field. And here's the one deal. This is a perfect segue into why Arizona State can win. If anybody in this conference can fire up some random guy on the bench or the number 2 or the number 3 guy, it's Kenny Dillingham. That coaching staff has worked wonders this season. Not to say Matt Campbell hasn't. They were 2-10 2 years ago, but in this Big 12 championship, I'm confident that while we will feel the loss of Jordyn Tyson, it won't be as dramatic as so many people have projected. With that being said, Arizona State will win. Let's go there next on a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Cyclones crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, today's show, yeah, you best bet. It's brought to you by Bettor Together. Bettor Together is spectacular. I've been able to play the game. You can compete against me in the game. And for Big 12 fan bases, you can show you the best players by participating in the Fan Challenge Series for an ability to win actual money with Bettor Together. So if you visit Bettor Together today, your bracket is busted, you want to stay in the game, you introduce Bettor Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent. You can play with your friends and not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. Grab a friend and join the social DFS movement. Bettor Together, first cooperative daily fantasy application. Bettor Together provides a sense of camaraderie, all right? Download the Bettor Together now from the App Store. Sign up using promo code LOCKEDON for a free $5 entry into any NCAA basketball contest. So play with me. Remember that code LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it's Bettor Together. That is right. It is Bettor Together. Download Bettor Together today from the App Store, and I promise you, it'll be well worth it. Nick Marv of Locked On Cyclones with us. Arizona State is going to blow out Iowa State, or at least win even without Jordyn Tyson. If that is true, if that's what the headline reads at 3 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, what went wrong for the Cyclones and right for the Sun Devils?
Turnover battle. I think that's the biggest thing right here. I think the Cyclones are plus 10 on the year, and that's always something you want to win, obviously, but if the Cyclones give the ball up and we're not able to capitalize on offense, which our run game, it's been spotty, and maybe they bring out a good secondary unit. I don't know. Let's just play hypotheticals here because we're already in a hypothetical scenario in which Arizona State wins this. Let's not get too crazy, but it's really going to come down to turnovers.
By the way, Arizona State, number 23 secondary in the country. So yeah, good.
Yeah, definitely good, but you're also facing Higgins and Knoll here. So, it is what it is, but the turnover is going to be huge, and that's redundant. It seems ridiculous. So if you want a wild card, I'll throw at you special teteams. I think if Iowa State makes one special teams play, maybe two big boom special teams plays, that's going to win them the game. That's going to be a huge deal. But if they're stagnant on special teams, I almost wonder if we're looking at Arizona State here.
You are playing an Arizona State team that has Cam Skattebo, who is the most dangerous singular offensive player in the Big 12. Travis Hunter cannot do it without Shedeur Sanders. I'd argue that every quarterback in the Big 12 couldn't do it without their A1 receiver or one of those guys. This is a kid that could just put the team on his back, rush for 175 yards. He rushed for 300 yards earlier this year and go win the game. There are analysts that have picked Arizona State to win because they've won 5 straight. They haven't lost since mid-October. Cam Skattebo can score 3 touchdowns and run the ball for 178 yards, and that will completely stifle Iowa State. What do you do, Nick? And you mentioned this on your show. Your leading tackler is a DB. What do you do when you're facing a kid like this?
Skattebo he's terrifying. He really is. He's really good, obviously, off the handoff, but then as well, as a receiver, essentially. So Skattebo is going to be tough, and I think the biggest thing to look here is at Iowa State's bend, don't break mentality. I don't have the analytics or the statistics in front of me, but it's very much bend, don't break defense for the Clones. And you have to stop those red zone drives. I always say you're going to have a few breakout plays in a football game. That's generally how that works. But really, it's going to come down to stopping them in the red zone. And I mean, Skattebo is just unbelievable. He really is. I'm surprised he's not in Heisman talks.
Yeah, he probably could be. 17 touchdowns this season on the ground. He's maybe the best running back in the Power 4 at the very least. And he's had a couple games where he's held at bay, but overall at 1,400 yards and those nearly 500 yards receiving and 35 receptions, he is good, like you mentioned, in the passing game, and they're going to have to use that without Jordyn Tyson this week. Bad news, which is Iowa State, defensively, 73rd in the country on 3rd and 4th down. So while Arizona State is bad in that category, Iowa State is too. And guess what, Nick? Bad news. Arizona State, 14th in the nation offensively on 3rd and 4th down. Iowa State can't seem to get off the field defensively, and Arizona State stays on the field. That's a recipe for what we say in the industry is not good.
I'd have to agree. Obviously, winning the 3rd down and 4th down, you want to keep your guys off the field, and that's really a momentum swinger, right? That's where you lose momentum. That's where everything gets deflated, especially if it's in the red zone. Right, a 3rd or a 4th down, you think, oh, we held him to a field goal, bang. All of a sudden, you're looking at 1st and goal. That's not good. That's not where we want to be. And I do think that the Cyclones can obviously pick things up in that category, and I would be very interested to see how it works with that secondary potentially smothering Arizona or Arizona State, rather, and what they have to offer. But there's nothing really I can say to you. That is just a bad stat. I don't love that.
No, it's not good for Iowa State. And to get away then from the analytics and go back to, I always say don't bring vibes to an analytics fight, but there are certain areas here where you think, okay, Arizona State's 5-game win streak. I mean, that's a kind of a vibes thing. They've got that going for them. And they have Sam Leavitt, the young quarterback going for them, born in 2004. Sam Leavitt's trotting out there this week. Are you scared of Sam Leavitt?
I think Sam Leavitt and Rocco are pretty similar, actually, in a lot of ways, just with their ability to extend plays and maybe make the most of wide open field in front of them. So I do think there is a little bit of a threat there, but I almost wonder if maybe Sam Leavitt, without his number one guy, there's going to be a little bit of nerves there. He's going to have to make a few different decisions. And obviously, if that scheme does change in the way that we've kind of mentioned, I wonder what happens there. Is there a bit of unfamiliarity? So I think if there's a time to catch Sam Leavitt, it might be right now.
So we've already mentioned the passing game is going to be different. The run game for Cam Skattebo is certainly going to be there. And Jordyn Tyson, his loss will be felt. It should be felt. It will be seen. Defensively, does the defense of Arizona State scare you? Because they do rank pretty darn well. 17th against the rush, 23rd against the pass in the country. Do they scare you if you're an Iowa State fan? Because Iowa State is pretty efficient on offense.
I think it's really going to come down to what we do well is secure the ball. So if you don't turn it over and it gets into a defensive battle, I'm confident enough in the Cyclone defense. Realistically, I'm okay with either a shootout or a defensive standoff. if we can just hold on to the ball, I'll be okay with that. Arizona State certainly does fly around, and they have an unbelievable defense. I'm not saying they don't. It's just going to come down to doing our job, right? Maybe we pick up a third down here and really just don't lose the ball. Obviously not scared. I wouldn't say scared. I would say apprehensive.
Are you, man, Kenny Dillingham, he can be loud. Matt Campbell can be loud as well. Dillingham is one of the best young coaches in the Big 12. And a guy like that, to me, could be the difference in this game where one of these two will be sent to the college football playoff. Are you worried facing Kenny Dillingham?
Well, when you look at it in a vacuum, potentially, for sure. Kenny Dillingham is, he's a beast. He is what he is. But when you match him up against Matt Campbell, having been in the Big 12 championship in 2020 against Oklahoma, that's going to help. That is certainly going to help. Just being in the atmosphere yet again, he knows what to expect potentially from his players, how to wrangle them, and how to get everyone on the right path going into this game. And then, depending on what happens in the first half, he'll have another chance at halftime, and then obviously between every single play. So in a vacuum, Kenny Dillingham, sure. He's a guy. He's one of the best coaches in the Big 12 for sure. But if you match him up against Matt Campbell, I wouldn't say I'm worried.
The college football playoff is on the line between Arizona State and Iowa State this weekend. A 2.5-point line from Las Vegas that favors Arizona State. It has moved to 2 since Jordyn Tyson was announced out. Vegas thinks that Iowa State's going to lose and Arizona State is going to come away with a win. Is that bulletin board material? Before we get into the unexpected nature of this title, is that bulletin board material when so many people do think the momentum of Arizona State will carry them through no matter the injuries?
I don't know if Iowa State has a bulletin board. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that they are so centrally focused and locked in that I don't know if they can even, they might not have ears to be able to hear the noise. I really think that they are a central, very confident in themselves team. And maybe they do, maybe that's part of it. I can't tell you for sure. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing a helmet this Saturday, but I'll tell you this much. That's who they are. They know exactly who they are, especially now, and they are willing to do what it takes. I don't think that they're looking outside.
All right, Nick, let's talk unexpected. That's the nature of this championship game between Iowa State and Arizona State. I'm not sure anybody had this on their bingo card. We'll go there next on a Locked On Big 12. Locked On Cyclones crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, it's me again. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the #1 sports book in Guam, Puerto Rico. Those are all territories of America. And if you visit FanDuel today, I've got a special promo for you. You go to FanDuel and you put $5 down on something, and that hits, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. All new customers, $5 turned into $150 in bonus bets if you win. And you're watching the NFL on a Saturday and you think, I know my team is down by 7 at halftime, but I want to place a live bet because I think they're going to come back and win. You do it on FanDuel. You place a live bet because you've checked the latest stats. You've viewed live play-by-play. You know what you're talking about. You know how you know what you're talking about because all of those things are available on the app, the FanDuel app, FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Nick Marv of Locked On Cyclones joining Locked On Big 12 in a little crossover edition. So yours truly, 4 weeks ago, was promised BYU and Colorado in the Big 12 championship. Brett Yormark salivating over that. The commissioner wants the two teams that have brought in so much exposure this year. Instead, you have, in my mind, the two best football teams in the Big 12 right now. As it should be. The College Football Playoff Committee has screwed everybody over, but I think we've gotten it right with two teams that are playing really peak football now. Is there any sort of disappointment, interesting air, an aura that's off, knowing that Iowa State's not playing a Colorado and Travis Hunter or a BYU who's been the best story maybe in the conference?
Oh, not over here, I wouldn't say. I think Iowa State plays who's in front of them, realistically. There was a chance even on, you remember, Saturday night that we weren't even going to be in the title game. There was a chance that things go a different way. So I think everyone at Iowa State is really just thrilled to be there, and especially hearing names. Like, it's been quite a while now, and this is one of our better teams we've had going 7-0 to start the year. Everybody had high hopes, but realistically, I do think Arizona State, one of the best teams in the country. There's an element of maybe some timidness. I don't think it's wishing it was somebody else. I think it's really just being happy to be there.
I'm a Rangers fan. Texas Rangers, that is. And I would have loved to have won the 2011 World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals, I should say. And that would have rocked so hard because you beat one of these legendary MLB brands. Well, instead, our first World Series came against the Diamondbacks. And the way that I would describe it is I'm very grateful we won the World Series. I teared up when Josh Sborz threw the very final out. How cool is that? Celebrate. But also, would have been a little bit neater had it been someone that wasn't the Arizona Diamondbacks. You just don't really care. Nobody cares about the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a brand new team to the Big 12 in Arizona State. If you win this game against an Arizona State brand who's not a top 10 team right now, does it feel like that loses some luster compared to beating a Colorado?
We go back to the vacuum again, right? So compared to a Colorado, everybody wants a shot at Colorado, right? They're playing for hits, not clicks out there, or whatever's the quote right now. Yes. But I'll say this, this is the first season the Cyclones have had 10 wins ever, period. How many seasons has Iowa State played football? Do you know?
103, right?
I think it's 133 potentially. That's the number I saw, but I also might just be unable to read. That's completely possible. But I'll tell you, I mean, Iowa State right now, we don't really care who it's against. And I can 100% see the side of, it's Arizona State. Well, look at their record last year. Look where they were. This is, the Big 12 stinks. Is that what this is? Is that why they're able to get here? I don't really think that's how it is. I just want to bring home the hardware. I just want to go down to Arlington, get the game, bring it back to Ames, and then put it up on some pedestal somewhere, make it where everyone can see it. Iowa State is now a legitimate football program.
I think the only reason that question should be applied for Iowa State is because it doesn't work in the other direction for Arizona State. I don't think there is a Big 12 team Arizona State would say, well, we wish. Maybe the only one would be BYU because they had that mid-season quasi-rivalry. But for everybody else, Arizona State just feels like chip on the shoulder. They're the new guys in town, and they can already in year one go from 3-9 to dominating and winning the Big 12, going to the college football playoff. So I think they are certainly not happy. We're just happy to be here. I don't believe that's how Arizona State feels, but they're excited to beat anybody and everybody they get. Whereas I do think had BYU made this game and they didn't get Colorado or Arizona State, they would be like, we wanted one of those teams. And the win is just a little bit is taken out because we don't, in fact, live in a vacuum. And if we did, it would be dusty and weird. Nick, if Iowa State wins this game, and I'm happy to represent Arizona State here and give you what it would be for that fan base. But if Iowa State wins this game, what does it do for not just Matt Campbell, for not just Ames, Iowa, but for every Cyclone out there?
Well, for one thing, it's a Cyclone state now. Officially, the Iowa Hawkeyes cannot make too much noise anymore. And it's really just going to bring a whole energy to the town. All the Cyclone fans, we've waited so long. We've been so bad for so long.
133 years to be exact.
Just so long. And it's been a lot of, there was in that, 2-game stretch in the middle of the season, we drop one to TT and then we drop one to Kansas. And granted, Kansas good, Texas Tech at home, homecoming, weird game. It is what it is. But there was an element of, we're still the Cyclones. It is what, that was just all you saw. We start 7-0. You can't give us a good thing because we're going to ruin it. No, if we can pull this off, we're here. We've done it. I can't say we're back, but we're back.
It's a very good Sam Ellinger quote that we're back. I think for Arizona State, I know actually, this cements Kenny Dillingham as a statue guy. You automatically become as a conference champion. Did you know Arizona State have combined for singular BCS big time New Year's Eve bowl win? One. Oh, wow. Combined. That is bad. This would give them an opportunity to play in the college football playoff and ultimately be, similar to Iowa State, kind of the crown jewel of a program that has struggled a lot, has lived in the shadow at times of the team across the street, in this case, Arizona for Arizona State. And that's what Kenny Dillingham, a young, fairly new head coach, is fighting for with his team and his running back that's so damn good and the quarterback who's good as well and all that stuff that's very good for Arizona State. Nick, before we get out of here, the way the game plays out in your mind, if you picture, not even ideally this is how it goes, just based on the X's and O's and everything you've done to research this week, what can we expect from minute 1 to minute 60 on Saturday?
I hate it. I hate to have to say this. I think Arizona State comes out a little bit hotter than Iowa State. We've been slow in the first half all season long, right? Arizona State, maybe they go up 10. I think we get a big play out of Higgins at some point and maybe a big return out of Noel. I don't think that's an ideal situation. I really do think that those are very much in play here. And then it becomes almost Big Ten football, right? For that third quarter, it's going to be just banging the rock both ways, a couple third and outs, maybe a couple field position battles. And then to end it all, I think it's going to be a one possession game. I mean, you saw the analytics. It's potentially going to be coming down to 1 point here. And it's going to come down to a go-ahead touchdown in, I'd say, the last 3 minutes. And I don't know if the other team will potentially make a run for a field goal there. But I do think it's going to be very, very tight. Arizona State gets out early. Iowa State battles back. It's going to be tough. And it comes down to one score.
It's the Big 12 championship game. It is this Saturday in Arlington, Texas. Nick and myself will both be there. My flight was $900. I booked it today. My credential is in the mail, and I will eat free food at AT&T Stadium, which I've done many times before, and I'm excited to do it again this weekend on Saturday. I'll see you there if you're also there. That is Nick Marv. We're just going to go with Marv. If you hit subscribe, he gets to keep his job hosting Locked On Iowa State. If you hit subscribe for me, they may still fire me. This has been, it always will be, Big 12 Championship Week. Thanks for making Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Cyclones your first listen every single day. This is Locked On Dose Grande.